We all must have known a friend who always seemed kind and grounded, or a colleague who always stood for what was right. And now they are doing things that feel completely out of character. Or maybe you have felt it in yourself lately. Small compromises here and there, moments of anger or envy that push you further from the person you want to be. People who started out with the best intentions only to drift towards actions and behaviors we never imagined they'd do. They might have been kind, generous, or hardworking, but something along the way changed them. A world where the lines between right and wrong blur, where noble hearts are tested by betrayal, ambition, and circumstance, where heroes fall from grace and villains rise from shadows, showing us that even the purest souls can be consumed by darkness when inner struggles and external forces collide. These moments aren't just personal, they are universal. The centuries-old Mahabharata painted this transformation vividly way before offering lessons that are shockingly relevant to our modern lives. Take the story of Karna, the son of the sun god. Born with divine armor and earrings that made him invincible. From the moment of his birth, Karna was abandoned by his mother Kunti and raised by a charioteer's family. Despite his brilliance and unmatched skills as a warrior, he was ridiculed for his low caste and denied the respect he deserved. This constant humiliation planted the seeds of anger and bitterness in his heart. When Duryodhana, the ambitious Kaurava prince, offered Karna friendship and a position of power, it was like water to a thirsty soul. Duryodhana recognized Karna's worth when the world had dismissed him, and Karna, in turn, vowed unwavering loyalty to him. But this loyalty became Karna's greatest weakness. Blinded by gratitude, he ignored Duryodhana's growing cruelty and supported him even in his most immoral acts, including the humiliation of Draupadi. Karna's transformation wasn't immediate. It was a gradual erosion of values. Every insult, every rejection hardened his heart, and every act of loyalty to Duryodhana pushed him further from his innate nobility. He justified his actions as repayment of a debt to his friend, but deep down, Karna wrestled with his conscience. Then there's Duryodhana, who reminds us of that person who's always comparing their life to others. Maybe it's the co-worker, resentful of someone else's promotion, or the friend who can't be happy for others' success. Duryodhana was so consumed by jealousy of the Pandavas, who seemed to have it all, that he stopped focusing on his own growth. Instead, he spent his energy scheming to bring others down. Does this sound familiar to you? Social media amplifies this mindset, turning envy into a constant companion. Instead of celebrating what we have, we fixate on what we lack and let it sour our perspective. And then there's Ashwatthama, who represents the dangers of letting emotions take over. He was a skilled warrior, but when his father was killed, grief and anger clouded his judgment. In a moment of rage, he did something unforgivable. He lashed out at innocent lives. Haven't we all been there on a smaller scale? Maybe not with swords, but with words. Sending that harsh text, yelling at someone who didn't deserve it, or posting something hurtful online. In the heat of moment, emotions can turn us into someone we don't recognize. The Mahabharata doesn't portray these characters as inherently evil. It shows them as human. Their descent into darkness wasn't born from malice, but from pain, ego, and unaddressed desires. It's a reminder that even the best of us are vulnerable to the forces of anger, jealousy, and attachment. Good people don't become monsters overnight. It happens bit by bit. We are all human, and the potential for both greatness and destruction lies within us. It's okay to feel hurt, rejected, or angry, but we must address those feelings before they take control. So what's the takeaway for us? It's a wake-up call to pause and reflect. Are we letting anger, jealousy, or ego steer our decisions? Are we clinging to relationships or situations that make us lose sight of our own values? Let's dive into how Bhagavad Gita addresses the complexities of morality, behavior, and the choices individuals make, explaining that the journey from good to bad behavior is not abrupt, but is often the result of the inner struggles, ignorance, and unchecked desires. Understanding Gita not just as an epic tale of warriors and kingdoms, but as reflections of the choices we all make in our daily lives, urging us to reflect on our choices and confront the darkness within before it consumes us entirely. After all, it's not the world that defines us, it's how we respond to it, because the truth is, the battle between good and bad isn't happening out there, but as we already know, it is within us. Let's discuss the key reasons why good people turn into monsters. Desire and greed, Kama and Lobha. Unrestrained desires and greed can consume a person, leading them down to a path where they prioritize their cravings over morality. In their pursuit of power, wealth, or recognition, they may compromise their values and harm others. Krishna explains that the desire and anger are born from the mode of passion and are the greatest enemies of the soul. These forces can push even the most well-meaning individuals into destructive behaviors. Desires must be regulated and actions should align with dharma, righteousness. In chapter 3, verse 37, it is mentioned, Shri Bhagwan Uvacha, Kama Esha Krodha Esha Rajo Guna Samudbhava Mahashano Mahapapama Vidyenam Iha Vairinam. It is desire, it is anger, born of the mode of passion, rajas, which is insatiable and full of sin. Know this as the enemy here on earth. Desire is the yearning for pleasure, possession, or achievement. It is natural for humans to desire, but unchecked desires can become insatiable. When we are constantly chasing one desire after another, we lose peace of mind. Desire can lead us to compromise our morals and act in ways that harm ourselves and others. According to the Gita, human behavior is influenced by 3 gunas, modes of nature: sattva, goodness; clarity, balance, and selflessness; rajas, that is passion, activity, ambition, and restlessness; tamas, that is ignorance, inertia, darkness, and laziness. Rajas, the mode of passion, drives action and ambition, but can lead to excessive attachment, restlessness, and dissatisfaction. When dominated by rajas, people often act impulsively, driven by their desires and emotions. In the modern world where consumerism, social media, and instant gratification dominates, desires multiply endlessly, whether for material wealth, status, likes, or validation. When these desires are unmet, frustration and anger arise, leading to stress, anxiety, and conflict. Krishna's advice is to recognize these impulses, understand their origin, and work towards mastering them. By practicing self-awareness, self-control, and cultivating a balanced mindset, we can rise above the cycle of endless craving and frustration, finding a deeper sense of fulfillment and peace. In essence, Krishna urges us to shift our focus from external achievements to inner mastery, transforming the way we approach life's challenges. When desires are thwarted, anger or feelings of revenge arises. For instance, if we don't get the recognition, respect, or material objects we crave, we often feel frustrated, or resentment arises, which manifests as anger. Anger clouds judgment, leads to impulsive actions, and can destroy relationships, opportunities, and inner peace. In chapter 2, verse 63, it is mentioned, Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti vibramaha, smriti bhranshad buddhinasho, buddhinashat pranashyati. From anger comes delusion. From delusion, confusion of memory. From confusion of memory, the destruction of intelligence. And from the destruction of intelligence, one perishes. Krishna explains how one negative emotion like anger can spiral into a chain of reaction of destructive consequences. What begins as a fleeting moment of frustration can lead to a complete loss of self-awareness and ultimately harm one's life and purpose. Krodhat bhavati sammoha. Anger clouds the mind. When someone is angry, they lose the ability to see things clearly. Their judgment becomes impaired and they often act impulsively, driven by emotions rather than reason. That is, from anger comes delusion. Sammohat smriti vibrama. From delusion arises confusion of memory. Delusion leads to a disruption in memory and understanding. A person forgets their values, past lessons, and even their higher purpose. They lose touch with their inner wisdom and principles, making irrational decisions. Smriti bhramshada buddhinasho. From confusion of memory, destruction of intelligence. When memory and understanding are compromised, intelligence, that is buddhi, deteriorates. Intelligence here refers to the ability to discern between right and wrong and to make balanced decisions. A person with diminished intelligence becomes reckless and self-destructive. Buddhinashat pranashyati. From the destruction of intelligence, one perishes. Finally, the lack of intelligence leads to one's downfall. This isn't just physical destruction, it includes emotional, social, and spiritual ruin. The person loses their peace, relationships, and connection with their true self. Attachment and ego, moha and ahankara. Have you ever found yourself overly attached or obsessed to a person, an idea, or even a dream? You'll know how consuming it can be. And when that attachment feels threatened, the ego steps in like a guard dog, barking and biting at anything that challenges it. Sounds familiar? The Gita has a timeless perspective on this. In chapter 2, verse 71, Krishna says, Vihaya kaman yah sarvan pumascharati nisprihaha nirmamo nirahankara sashantim adhigacchati. The one who abandons all desires, acts free of attachment and ego, and is not possessive of anything, that person attains peace. In simpler terms, Krishna is reminding us that peace comes from letting go, not holding tighter. The more we cling, the more the ego flares up, distorting our actions and judgment. Think of Duryodhana. He had so much going for him: strength, intelligence, and the love of his family. But what consumed him? His attachment to the throne and his inflated ego. He couldn't bear the idea of the Pandavas sharing power. This attachment blinded him to reason, and his ego wouldn't let him back down, even when his actions led to war and devastation. How often we let our attachments or ego get the best of us. Maybe it's a project at work, a relationship, or even an argument, where we know we are wrong, but pride won't let us admit it. It's the same cycle. Attachment leads to fear, and fear fuels ego-driven reactions. Think of it in this way. When you are holding on to something too tightly, your hands are full and you can't grasp anything new. But when you loosen your grip, you create space. Space for peace, clarity, and growth. So the next time you catch yourself spiraling, whether it's over a relationship, a goal, or your pride, pause and ask yourself, is this my higher self talking, or is it my ego? Practicing this awareness might just save you from your own personal Kurukshetra. Influence of negative traits, that is, Tamas. According to the Gita, the three gunas, as I mentioned earlier, drive the human behavior. When Tamas dominates, it leads to ignorance, laziness, and harmful actions. pulling even the good people into destructive behaviors. In chapter 14, verse 8, it is mentioned, Tamas tvajnanajam vitti mohanam sarvadehinam pramadalasya nidrabhis tanane badnati bharata. From the mode of goodness, knowledge arises. From the mode of passion, greed arises. And from the mode of ignorance, delusion arises. Just as smoke clouds the fire, the mode of passion and ignorance cover the knowledge of the soul. Tamas arises from agyan, lack of knowledge or wisdom. This doesn't necessarily mean formal education, but a deeper ignorance about life's purpose and the nature of reality. A person influenced by tamas is unaware of their higher potential and often stuck in a limited or negative worldview. Tamas has a binding nature because it traps individuals in cycles of inaction, ignorance, and indulgence in lower tendencies. It obstructs progress and keeps one away from achieving fulfillment or spiritual liberation. It binds us through negligence, pramada, laziness, alasya, and sleep, nidra. Negligence is the lack of care or attention, not taking responsibilities, avoiding efforts, or overlooking opportunities for growth. Laziness manifests as inertia, an unwillingness to take action and a tendency to procrastinate. And sleep is not just physical sleep, but also symbolic of mental and spiritual inactivity, a refusal to awaken to life's deeper truths. Awareness is the first step towards overcoming tamasic tendencies. Engage in practices that counteract tamas, such as regular exercise, mindfulness, and purposeful work. While tamas can't be eliminated entirely as it is a part of nature, it can be balanced with sattva, goodness. Taking small steps towards discipline, reading, learning, and surrounding yourself with positive influences can help dispel mental fog. The impact of circumstances. One's actions are influenced by past lives. The Gita teaches that everything in the present is shaped by one's actions, that is karma, from previous lifetimes, as well as those from the current life. This is part of the broader philosophy of reincarnation and the law of cause and effect, which governs the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, samsara. The soul is eternal, and each body is just a temporary vessel. What happens in one lifetime, including the actions we perform, influences the future incarnations of the soul. This is known as karma vipaka, where the results of actions from past lives manifest in the current one. Therefore, when bad things happen to good people, it can be the karma phal of their previous bad deeds. Krishna says, Karmano hyapi bodhavyam bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha akarmanascha bodhavyam gahana karmano gatihi. The action, karma, is said to be of three kinds: the action of the body, the action of speech, and the action of mind. Actions done in past lives may determine the nature of these actions in the present life. While past karma influences the conditions of one's life, the Gita also emphasizes that individuals have the power to choose their actions in the present. This means that while one's past may influence their circumstances, the way they respond to those circumstances and their current choices also shape their future. The Gita encourages people to act selflessly, without attachment to the results, therefore, and surrender to Krishna, the divine, to overcome the cycles of past karma. One must also restrain from fault finding. The whole world and everything in it is a mixture of good and bad qualities. Focusing upon defects in others dirties our mind, while focusing upon their virtues purifies it. The nature of a saintly person is to see his or her own defects and observe the virtues of others. Evam pravartitam chakram nanuvartayati haya aghayurindriya ramo mogham partha sajivati. Arjuna, he who does not follow the wheel of creation, set of going in this world, sinful and sensual, he lives in pain. Thus, by doing one's work selflessly, a person can gradually neutralize the effects of their past karma. While circumstances influence you, your choices define you. However, one must know that karma cannot be destroyed. It can only be transferred or dissolved. It's like energy. It cannot be destroyed, only converted to another form. In chapter 18, verse 66, God, however, gives the solution. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchah. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. The wheel of nature has been set up by God for disciplining, training, and elevating all living beings of varying levels of consciousness. But the person who conforms to the divine laws becomes pure at heart. If one identifies as the body, then the key is to remain aware, stay grounded in our values, and remember that we always have the power to choose the right path. If one identifies as the soul, then the key is the knowledge to surrender to the eternal Lord, for He made this world and He will take care of you and your actions. Because life isn't just about being perfect, it's about learning, growing, and understanding that we all have our struggles. But as long as we stay true to what's inside our cores, we can avoid becoming the villains in our own stories. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.